In this video, I'm going to show how I modified my Magpul Hunter American stock to fit my left-handed Ruger American rifle. Now from this point on, I filmed on a different camera, which after editing left the frame rate all weird. So you're going to have to deal with that. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead. Step 1. Remove your Ruger American from its factory stock. Yes, I loosened these nuts ahead of time. Remove the bolt handle, and then place it inside the Magpul stock. Correction. Step 1 is actually to cut out this piece of plastic right here as it interferes with the receiver going into the stock. In addition to removing the lip that was right here, you also need to remove a decent amount of material from the inside right here. Not too much, it's not undoable. I did it with a Dremel. But that material needs to be removed in order for the parts for the safety to fit and function properly. Next, using a square, I measured the depth of the cut of the notch on this side and transferred it over to this side. To get the exact location of the notch out, I placed the action inside the stock and marked right at the edges of where the bolt handle is lowered through. And then I continued those lines downwards using my square after measuring the depth on this end. Next, I'm going to tape off this side so I can use it as a guide while I use a hacksaw to cut straight across and down until I reach the bottom of the right side original bolt handle notch. Now when cutting your initial notches with the hacksaw, you do not want to go all the way to the full depth of the notch. You want to stop at the depth of the original side, which I have fucked up on one side already. Go me. So that the notch has the appropriate aesthetic look of that angled notch on the stock. I'll have to figure out how to fix that or work around it now because I screwed up and went all the way to the bottom. With the hacksaw slots cut, I took my Dremel, my cutting wheel, and on both the polymer side and the aluminum side, I made nice gouges as deep as I could without messing up any of the surrounding material, being whether it's the polymer or the aluminum chassis. And then with my smallest drill bit, I drilled a bunch of tiny little holes through the material from one side out the other, and this got me weakened the material enough to where I was able to bend it out. And now I'm going to continue. I'm going to switch to the sanding drum in my Dremel, which is actually the perfect size for these notches, and I'm going to finish off making the slot. Now that all of the cuts have been made to the stock, the rifle action is fitting in the Hunter American stock. I'm going to take some steel stick, epoxy, 2-part epoxy, and use it to fill in the hole on this side. And then I'm going to put some on this side as well to try and mimic the shelf that was on this side that took up the space between the notch and the receiver. I have now finished adding the epoxy in to fill in all my holes. This one I already worked on a little bit to start smoothing it up. I had originally had so much extra epoxy here, it was a nice mound. I had cut that off when it was partially dried. I'll do some finish shaping when it's more completely dried. And on this side, I filled in all the cavities and voids that I left when I cut it out. It may look a little sloppy now, but the epoxy is on thick enough to where I can take my files to it later and cut it back to the shape, to a more neater looking shape. Let's add some light on that. And I also added the shelf that goes towards the inside to mimic how the stock was originally on the other side. Now right now I do not expect the rifle to actually fit back into here because of that shelf I added. But once that dries a little more, I will be filing it down and getting the rifle to fit back in. And here is the final result after an hour worth of sanding epoxy that I built up on the stock. Let's grab a flashlight to get some better light on it. We now have a much better looking slot for the bolt handle to ride in. And the slot where the original slot is gone. Now I may paint this so that it looks a little bit nicer, but in terms of function, it is going to work just fine. Let's drop the rifle in and see what it looks like. And there you have it, a left-handed Ruger American in the Magpul stock.